Welcome to the Mandala Podcast, where we help you feel your best body, mind, and soul. Hey there, Charlie McDermott, back with Bree Jaworski. Bree, how you doing?
I'm awesome, Charlie. How are you doing? How was your Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was wonderful, delightful in so many
Good.
ways.
Hope
Yeah,
everybody's was good.
you know, it's just having that downtime. It's hard. I mean, weekends are great, but never enough. And to have that 4 days, even though you kind of in the beginning, I don't know, you kid yourself that you're going to get so many things done or read all
Yeah,
these books, but it still
for sure.
feels good that you
Just
got a
having some
partner.
time off is nice. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, I picked up a couple clients on Friday, so I had to work a little bit on Friday, but having Thursday and Saturday and Sunday and a little bit of
Yeah,
Friday was really nice. And my
yeah.
husband was home, so that's always nice. So yeah, all around good times.
Well, terrific. Well, speaking of nice, we had a real nice conversation in the last episode. So nice that it went on and on because of. I mean, fortunately, you're there in helping folks, but we still have four more scenarios / questions to get through. So, have you recovered from the last episode?
I don't know. I really don't. No, I have. The last one was heavy though, for sure. And
Yeah,
yeah,
especially
so
that last question. That was,
yes.
and if
I think I spend a lot of time thinking about that particular topic that with the trans
yeah,
teens that we talked about in the last episode. It's
yeah,
crazy how much it comes up in my line of work. Just yeah, so it's interesting to have people ask questions about it and be able to answer it. I feel like we could do a whole episode on that topic though. It's a heavy one for sure.
yeah, yeah. So for your listeners who are wondering, what was the last episode all about? Make sure you go back and listen if you're just jumping in on this first one. But
Yeah.
before you go back, stay tuned to this one. So it's kind of the same running theme. We're just, like I said, we ran out of time. So we're going to jump into that next question we had, Bree, which was the past few weeks, especially this week, I've had no motivations to do anything at all. And all I want to do is just lie in bed. I know what I need to do and have to do, but I have no will to do it. I'm worried that it will affect my grades. I don't feel like leaving the house at all. I have to study and do some schoolwork, but I keep pushing it back and kept getting distracted because I have no motivation to study or do work. I then feel guilty that I'm not doing anything and I hate myself for that. I don't know what to do. I mean, that vicious cycle. That's,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that for sure. I know I can.
absolutely.
Uh, so it definitely sounds like this person is involved in a bit of a depressive episode. Now, I'm not definitely not in this situation. Would I attempt to diagnose anybody? I don't know enough information. I don't know the person, but it definitely sounds like a depressive episode. And so the first thing I would say is when you're starting to feel like just that loss of motivation and just the things that typically bring you joy are no longer bringing you joy, that kind of thing, you want to start to take like a bit of an inventory in your life, meaning check in with yourself, like how are your relationships, not just your romantic relationships, but like relationships with family, friends, that kind of thing. How are those going? Are you able to keep that up? Are you able to spend time with people still? Or is that something, again, that's kind of falling by the wayside because of your lack of motivation to do things and that kind of thing? So the second thing would be check in on your job, your career. How is that going? Or your financial situation. These are all things that can bring either peace or a lot of stress to people, depending on where you fall on the spectrum. What are your major stressors? So like just taking again an inventory on what are the things in your life that are bringing you a large amount of stress. I would definitely try to pinpoint what those things are and alleviate or eliminate some of them, or at least spend less time on some of them if you can. And also what brings you joy, what brings you peace. um, I talk about this a lot with my clients. I feel like I just literally in my session that I had right before this, I was just talking about this. And some of you may know that I'm a board certified health coach, but I'm also a PhD program in integrative medicine. And so the university that I go to is all like at the basis of everything we do is quantum physics. So for my science people out there, you'll really understand this, but
Yeah.
in a quantum physics sort of situation, when we think of like the law of vibration, so we are all vibrating at a certain frequency. So like my computer, this microphone, my body, you, Charlie, the listener, everybody has a frequency. It'd be really cool if we had like a little, some sort of measure of what that was. It'd be really
Yeah.
cool if it was like, oh, you're measuring at an 800 right now. Like that'd be sweet, but we don't. So we have to kind of gauge where we are as far as our frequency by the way that we feel. And so what we've also learned is that emotional states carry their own frequency as well. So for example, on the low end of the frequency scale, you've got things like shame, guilt, depression, sadness, all of these things that just they don't feel good. That's basically without some sort of measurement of what our frequency is, that's how you can tell if something has a high vibrational frequency or a low vibrational frequency. Does it feel good or not? So this person, I would venture to say, is probably vibrating at a very low frequency
Yeah.
because of the way that they're feeling. No motivation, just feeling sad and not wanting to do things and that kind of thing. So on the other end of the spectrum, we've got things like peace, joy, enlightenment, love. Those are all high vibrational frequencies. And so what we do have control over is we are able to pinpoint things in our life that bring us joy, that bring us peace. And I always tell people, like, literally make a list of those things and start to incorporate more of those things into your life. Because when we jump to another law of the universe, which a lot more people are familiar with this one, is the law of attraction. So, in very basic terms, like attracts like. So on
Yeah.
a frequency level, we're going to attract something that's vibrating at the same frequency we are. So if we're vibrating at a very low frequency, which it sounds like this person might be, then we're going to attract more of those low vibrational things into our life, like shame and guilt and sadness, depression, anxiety, things like that. Now, if we start to incorporate more of the high vibrational things, like things that bring us joy and peace, those will bring our frequency up, and then we will start attracting more things that are on our new vibrational plane. So these are simple things that, I mean, it sounds simple to make a list of things that bring you peace and joy, which it is simple. But the thing is, when you're lacking motivation and things, it may be hard sometimes to start to incorporate some of that stuff in your life. But my suggestion, my very, very strong suggestion would be to try. If you do nothing else but find a couple things that bring you peace. Or, I always tell people, it could be people, it can be experiences, it could be places, it could be things, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just the feeling that you get from it. If you're getting a good feeling from it, chances are a high vibrational thing. I was just semi joking, not really joking, with my client that I just saw, because she's very spiritual and I'm very spiritual as well. And they theorize that people that, if you believe in this kind of thing, people that get like possessed by demons are
Mm.
vibrating at a really low frequency, and the demons are at a
Right.
really low frequency. So they're like more susceptible to that kind of thing. So if for no other reason than to not get possessed by demons, then keep your frequency high. And that's all I have to say on that note. But for real, like, I mean, if you think about it, if you're vibrating at that very low frequency, you're susceptible to all sorts of negative things. So just try to keep your frequency high, and even if it's just doing little things like incorporating, and it could be easy things like spending time with your pets, or having a conversation with somebody that makes you happy, or sometimes it's watching TV or something. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm not here to judge what the things are that bring you peace and joy. Just figure them
Yeah.
out, though. I think that's the main takeaway. Figure out what it is that brings you peace and joy and incorporate more of that.
Wow. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, I would have listened to that, Bree, and said, yeah, it's a bunch of, woo-woo, or however you want to phrase it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what you just shared has completely changed my life, Barb's life, and I have a fraction of the knowledge that you have. But I'm like getting chills as you're going through all that, and it is such an important message for everyone. I mean, the other side of it is if you're not depressed, but and you want to stay, high
Yeah.
vibration, it's important to understand that there is such a thing,
Yeah.
and that, like you said, like attracts like. I mean, it's like that saying, you become like the five people you spend most time with, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really is
Mm-hmm.
that same law.
Yes.
Um, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And we don't blink an eye when someone puts food in a microwave and it's cooked and we can't see what's happening,
yeah,
but
yeah,
something's happening, or we turn on a radio and music starts coming out. We don't blink an eye at those kind of frequencies. But when we talk about frequencies, having to do with ourselves, or like, vibrating at a certain frequency, we all like think it's weird. It's the same concept. Just because you can't see something, and I think that's the whole, like, premise behind quantum physics, right? But you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. So, the things that we don't see are the things that we need to keep an eye on, so to speak,
yeah, yeah,
more so than others, because they're not blatantly in our face. We need to make sure that we're making a conscious effort to be more aware of them. So, but it does make, yeah, you're right. It makes a huge difference in your life.
yeah. So see, this is what happens. We talk about one question before like 15 minutes have gone by.
I know. That's why we don't get through questions, but we're doing our
uh,
best here.
yeah, you're doing great. This is so helpful. I mean, again, you can never hear this enough. I don't care what kind of state you're in. You're depressed, average, high vibration. It just that constant reminders is so important because we all live inside our heads, right?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I need to be reminded of it too, and it's not like I'm an all-knowing. I get into little funks and things. I have to constantly
Yeah,
remind myself.
yeah. Well, make sure you listen to this episode. All right,
Okay,
next
on repeat.
question. My wife wants a divorce. I don't understand. She said she loves me dearly in the same conversation, but she needs to work on herself. We've been together since 17. We're both now 28. My world is crashing around me. I've cried. I've suggested professional help. I've cried some more. I just don't know what to do. She said it's her, not me. She said she is interested in someone else, but they haven't talked or hugged out or even hinted at the thought. And he's interested. I'm sorry. And and what is that? And he doesn't know. So there we go. So he doesn't know. They
Mhm.
just work together. I don't know. I'm just so lost and kind of venting. I've been with her my entire adult life, and I feel that she's the one for me. She is bipolar, has anxiety, depression, ADHD. I feel like it's just a phase she's going through. I just really don't know what to do. She is staying at her cousin's, and she said, I love you. Always have and always will, no matter what happens. This hurts me too, but I have to do what I have to do for myself. I'm sorry. She is my person, and I have no idea what I can do to make her see there are other ways if she loves me like she says she does.
Mm. Well, my heart goes out to this person because, speaking of frequencies, when we talk about
Yeah.
things that can be the most damaging, the most depressing, divorce is definitely up there on the list right after, like, grieving a death, close death. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
divorce is really difficult. I feel like this is, and, like, nothing's a one size fits all, but I feel like this is kind of a cautionary tale of getting married really young. Sometimes
Mm,
people get married really young and it works out and it's amazing and wonderful, and that's great. But also what I see happening sometimes is people get married really young and they get to be like in their late 20s, like this person, early 30s, and they are like, I feel like I missed something. I feel like I
mm,
missed this chunk of my life that I was supposed to explore myself, explore, whatever. And they didn't get to do that. And so now
mm,
it's like they want to do that now at a later date, but it's like they're married. And so they feel this like pull towards being free and, living their life, which they feel like they missed, and then being married. So, it sounds to me like this could kind of be what's going on. I understand also him saying that, his wife has some mental health issues, because sometimes specifically with some of the mental health issues that he mentioned, there can be some impulsivity and things like that. What leads me to believe that this is not that is she sounds like she's somebody who has one foot out the door. Like, "I love you,"
Mhm.
and it's very possible to love someone and not be in love with them or not wanna be in a relationship with them anymore. So, it does sound like she loves him, but doesn't necessarily want to be in the marriage anymore. So, I think for this person, they are going to have to realize a couple things that, like, one, this might be, some sort of phase, like, she might need to explore and do some things that she feels like she missed out on, and she might change her mind afterwards. She might be like, "You know what? This is for the birds. I don't really like this.
Mhm.
I got it out of my system, and I wanna come back." So, this person is gonna have to figure out if that's something that they're willing to accept or not. But I think the biggest mistake would be to try to keep this marriage together in the hopes that, like, this will go away. Because even if it goes away for a period of time, I would put money on the fact that it's going to come back again, and maybe it'll
Yeah.
come back up again when they're 40 and then when they're 50, like, because she is trying to fulfill something real or perceived that she missed out on. And so to
Yeah.
not allow her to explore that, I just feel like it's gonna be like a recurring issue in their relationship. So, yeah, it's a hard thing. It definitely sounds like she does love you, but at the same time needs to do what's right for her. And that's kind of what this
Yeah.
person said at the end, that they need to do what's best for them. And, not to say that it doesn't suck and it doesn't hurt, but I just feel like there's certain things that people feel like they need to explore or accomplish or whatever, and if she wasn't given the opportunity to do that because you guys got married so young, then she obviously feels like she needs to do it now. So, find support. That's my biggest advice.
Yeah.
Find
Yeah.
support because it's gonna be a tough one.
Mm, mm. All right. You ready for the next one?
Yeah, I'm ready.
My whole birth of my child was traumatic. I never got that skin to skin for an hour because she had to be rushed to the NICU. I was in the hospital for a week, and that whole week I only saw him for an hour or two max a day. When I had my C section, my boyfriend wasn't even holding my hand or anything. The only thing I remember is the nurse holding my hand when I heard the baby's first cries. And the minute she let go, I just felt immense sadness throughout my whole body. I didn't even know why. It's not like I knew it's not like I knew her. Now I just feel disconnected to my baby. I don't even realize that I'm actually a mother to someone. Like I know every other parent says, the oh my God, my baby is my life. I wouldn't have it any other way. Well, I would. I'm not sure I made the right choice having a baby, and I feel so guilty even thinking this way. My baby will be 3 weeks on Tuesday. Am I past the baby blues, or is this really postpartum depression? I don't even understand this feeling.
Oh, this is a hard one. So the baby blues, what people refer to as the baby blues, typically happens between the birth of your child and about up to 3 weeks. And so it sounds like they're kind of on the cusp. If it continues past 3 weeks, that's where we get into the postpartum depression kind of area. Postpartum depression, it can be really terrible. I mean, you feel like a disconnection to your child, and it doesn't
Right.
help also that we live in this world with social media and stuff where everyone's constantly like, "This is my baby, and I never knew love like this." And I'm not like making fun of it, but you hear this a lot. You
Yeah.
see this a lot on social
Yeah.
media, like, "Oh, my life never didn't even start till I had my baby." So we're programmed as mothers to think that that is how we have to feel or we're not a good mother.
Yeah. What's wrong
And
with me, right?
yeah, and so if
Yeah.
you feel off, you feel a disconnection with your baby, you feel, like not like you've really settled into motherhood or whatever the case may be, you have this immense guilt on top of feeling that, which feeling that on in and of itself is terrible, but then you have this immense guilt that's kind of given to you by our society that tells you that, like, all of those things are against nature and they're wrong. Um, I can see just from the things that this person said, it makes total sense to me that they're experiencing what could be loosely labeled as postpartum depression at this point. Um, I mean, don't even get me started on the hospital system with birth, because that's, again, that could be a whole episode. But just, from the beginning, not having skin to skin contact with the baby, having a C-section, having the baby taken, only getting to see them a few hours a day after birth. I mean, all of these things, like on a very physiological and biological level, these all have an effect on your bond with your child. They have an
Mm.
effect on, lactation. They have an effect on your hormonal balance. They have an effect on the latch, breastfeeding, everything that has to do with your child. Um, really starts in those first moments, leading up to the first few hours after their birth. And so it was almost like, uh, that whole kind of domino effect of good things happening was halted because of the way that things happened with the birth of your child. And so it's not super surprising to me that you would be feeling this way. And there's a couple things I would say. One, there are tons and tons of support groups and things like that of moms out there that have felt and experienced the same thing, or might be currently. The really good thing about that I love about postpartum support groups is because it's like these moms have gone through it, they're past it, but they know
Mm.
that it's so significant and it hurts so bad and it was so terrible that they take the time to like help new moms that are currently going through it, to help them and to know that like there's a light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing, which I think is really helpful, because when you're in it, you feel like this is how I'm going to feel about my kid forever. Like I'm never going to bond with them. I'm never going to connect with them. Um, I myself had really bad postpartum depression. And I think a lot of it had to do with also the way that my son was born. I mean, uh, leading up to my son being born, everything was exactly the way I wanted it. We were doing a home birth, like everything was very natural and very on my terms, but I had some complications after delivering him, which I then had to be rushed to the hospital directly after that. So basically I
Mm.
had probably 30 minutes with my son before I had to be rushed in an ambulance to the hospital. So I missed a lot of
Yeah.
that skin to skin and that bonding time, and that just that time that is honestly priceless with your child when they're first born. And so I had what I would consider the baby blues the first couple weeks, but then when it got into week 3, week 4, and onward, I would definitely say I was dealing with postpartum depression. And it's it's a terrible feeling, because not only are you feeling these things, but you have this insane amount of guilt for feeling them. It's like you can't even be safe in your own head, because the thoughts that you're having are so terrible and you're judging yourself so much.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and you know that if you were to say it out loud, other people would be judging you too. So, I remember just crying to my husband and telling him like, I'm a terrible mother. I'm not meant to be a mother. And, we look back on it now as just like that was a really hard, like difficult time in our life. But, he knew he had the foresight at that time, because his hormones weren't going crazy. And, to be like, no, you're not. You're a wonderful woman. You're a wonderful wife. You're going to be a wonderful mother. Like, everything's going to be okay. And he was right. But in that moment, like, I just remember being like, this is not for me. Like, I don't, and it's like, what do? You just like give your baby back to, it's like, what
Yeah.
do you do? You
Show the
feel like,
return camera.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
I remember looking at my son and just being like, "Ugh, like, I just feel nothing for you." And that's terrible. I mean, even saying it out loud right now, like, is just a terrible, terrible thing, I, like, cringe even hearing myself say that. But I think that more moms need to talk about that part, because it normalizes other moms going through that. Like, now that has completely shifted for me. And like, I love my son more than anything, and like, I don't feel that disconnect anymore at all. But at that time, I remember feeling like I don't know how I will ever connect with this child. Like, I don't know how I'll ever love this child. Like, I remember feeling immense, immense love for my husband. I love my husband so much. He's my number one, but this kid that we made, like, it's so crazy even saying it out loud, but I honestly remember feeling that. And so I urge you to just please get support. There's so much support out there, because a lot of moms have gone through this and they know how terrible it is. And stay off social media. Only if you're going for specific reasons, for helpful reasons, but stay off social media because you're seeing all these like picture perfect moms, picture perfect families, and it just makes you feel more inadequate, more, depressed, more terrible, more guilty, all of the things, and like we were just talking about vibration like that. I mean, that's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
bottom of the barrel vibration right there. So,
I'll
yeah, I
tell
mean,
you, I'm with you 100%. I could be having the best day of my life, and if I spend a few minutes on social media, all of a sudden I feel like inadequate,
yes.
uncaring.
Hmm.
It's just like, what's
Yeah.
wrong with me? It's
Well,
like,
and it's like
no.
it's creepy too because all of these social media platforms have these algorithms that it's almost
Yeah,
like, they know what you're thinking, they know what you're
yeah,
feeling, they know how to like prey on your insecurities. It's like it's scary. So yeah, just
it,
stay away
yeah,
from it until you're like in a better headspace. And please just, yeah, same as the last one, just find some support, whether it be a therapist or a support group or something, or, there are a lot of moms out there that really can attest to what you're going through. And although they're not you going through the same experience, I think it's always nice to know somebody went through something similar and they came out on the
yeah,
other side. And like you can see them with their kids and they're wonderful parents now. And, it's nice to see that, there's a light at the end of the tunnel for you. So best
yeah,
of luck to you.
yeah. Well, well, that's huge. All right. Next question. I've been diagnosed with major depressive disorder, and my psychiatrist has recommended medication. I try to live a healthy lifestyle and really don't want to get on medication, but also I don't want to be depressed. Any advice on alternatives?
Oh, I love this question because this is getting more into health coaching stuff, which I'm really into as well.
Mm,
So, yes, I do have some alternatives. So, one of the things that we've been taught, even myself, like being taught in school, serotonin and dopamine and all your
mhm,
neurotransmitters, your feel good neurotransmitters are created in the brain. Well, what we found now is that they're actually created in our gut. And so, what I would say to this person is we need to focus on gut health. I feel like gut health is like a popular thing right now, but in terms of mental health, it's absolutely vital. So, when we're talking about alternatives to antidepressants, you want to check in on your gut health. My guess, and I bet I'm right, is this person is having gut issues, whether it be digestive issues, leaky gut, stomach aches, constipation, diarrhea, whatever. I bet you they're having gut problems. So, first thing, we need to clean up our diets. Processed foods are terrible. There's a regulation now in the United States. Finally, we have like so few regulations on food in this
yeah,
country. It literally boggles my mind. But there's a regulation that is relatively new in the last year, that every food processed that's sold in the commercial grocery stores or wherever have to be labeled as bioengineered if they are bioengineered. So check your
mm,
labels. Go through. My husband and I did this. We went through our whole entire cupboard and pantry and everything. Anything that was labeled like had bioengineered ingredients, threw it out. Uh, there is no long-term study on what effect this kind of stuff will have on us. They think, just kind of theorizing now that it has potential to change your DNA, to have fertility issues, um, neurological issues, all sorts of issues. So get that crap out of your diet. The other thing is food dyes. Food dyes are in so much stuff. Check your labels
mm,
for food dyes. When we're talking about depression, that's one thing, but even ADHD and other things that are going on with children and adults can be completely exacerbated by food dyes. So like red
oh,
40, yellow number 5, all of those food dyes. If if you give a kid something with, a kid that's been diagnosed ADHD or with autism, if you give them something with red 40 in it, you will notice a change in their behavior within 30 minutes of giving them that substance. It has a very profound effect on us. So get rid of that stuff. Probiotics, everybody talks about probiotics, but what people don't talk about is prebiotics. So you give the probiotics, and it's the good bacteria. We want to add that to our system, but we also need to feed the probiotics, which is where the prebiotics come in. So prebiotics are just fiber. So you can get it in all sorts of forms, but we want to be taking both in order to really clean up our gut. The other thing is, I would suggest is a parasite cleanse. So here in the United States, parasite cleanses are really just something that we don't do, generally speaking. I mean, I think people that are really into health and know about parasites and the damage, and like they basically can wreak havoc on every part of your body. But in other countries, it's very, very commonplace for semi-annual or biannual parasite cleanses. Like they just do them. They've been doing them their whole life. So when they hear that in America we don't do parasite cleanses, they're like, what? Like, what are these people thinking? For as advanced as we are over here in America, we're like, ew, icky, I don't want to talk about parasites. But like, if you have pets in your home, if you walk around barefoot outside, which I suggest doing because it's a great way to ground yourself, but you have parasites. Just trust me. Everybody has parasites. So doing a parasite cleanse, that can definitely help. And then just gut healthy foods, fermented foods, bone broths, just things, just whole foods, not processed foods. So just really cleaning up your diet. And then the other thing is limiting your sugar intake, but also, and I think even more importantly, avoiding man-made sugar substitutes, specifically so we have like saccharides, sweet and low, we have aspartame, which is equal, and then we have sucralose, which is Splenda. So, and the number one culprit for gut issues is Splenda. If you are using or consuming Splenda, definitely stop. Splenda actually, they say that consuming Splenda, like in your coffee or whatever you're putting it in, is the equivalent of going through a round of antibiotics in regards to how it depletes your gut microbiome.
Whoa.
So yeah, and like nobody knows this. And the fact that they even allow it, the fact that they even allow us to consume that is insane. So yeah. So if we think of our gut biome, we have our good and bad bacteria, and almost like in a rainforest, you have all sorts of things living cohesively in harmony. But when you wipe out all of the bacteria which is what antibiotics do, right? They wipe out the bad bacteria, but they also wipe out the good bacteria. So that's why we have to replenish after we take a round of antibiotics. And they say typically it takes about 2 years after you take one round of antibiotics before you can get your gut microbiome back to like a beautiful rainforest again. So, but remember, Splenda has that same effect. So, yeah. And so definitely avoid antibiotics. There's a lot of natural antibiotics that you can take, garlic, oregano, like there's a lot of different things that you can do. And I grew up in the 90s. Like we were given antibiotics like they were candy. I mean, we had like a cough and they were like, here's a round of amoxicillin. It just, I cannot tell you how many times when I was a kid that, I mean, every time I went to the doctor, they gave me an antibiotic. They couldn't even tell me what was wrong with me. They're like, here's an antibiotic, and that was just like the normal commonplace thing to do. And maybe it still is. I don't know. I don't really mess with allopathic medicine anymore, but I just like thinking about that makes me cringe because it's almost like they set me up to have gut issues later on in life. And I definitely did. So, yeah. So just, if when we're thinking about depression and not wanting to be on antidepressants, we really need to focus on our gut health. That's the biggest tip that I can give is just really making sure that you're doing whatever you can to support a healthy gut because all of your serotonin, 95% of it is being manufactured in your gut. So if you have a unhealthy, leaky gut, no wonder you're feeling like crap mentally and physically. So yeah. So that's
Boy. We've covered it all today.
Yeah, a lot of depression stuff. So I guess that's the theme of today.
Yeah. Well, I think you've opened the eyes of your listeners to I mean, one, it's like you just talked about. It's not all about just medications, and
Yeah.
there are ways that we can all feel better,
Right.
and that connection between gut health and how we feel, how we think
Yeah.
is probably new information for a lot of folks. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
covered that.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too. I'm actually glad that came up.
yeah. Well, I think you probably need a nap after all that again.
I have one more client.
Uh, well, Bree, once again, really appreciate your knowledge and sharing that with the world here, and look forward to seeing the next episode.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here with me, and thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Mandala Podcast. To learn more about Mandala counseling and health coaching, go to www.mandala-counseling.com. That's www.mandala-counseling, counseling.com, or call 239-360-1983, or visit us on Facebook or Instagram.